I tell you what I really loved. I loved the respect that the other players showed each other in terms of their skill set and what they could do. Because you got to remember, like, we all have egos and we always want to think we're better than someone else. But I loved how the players spoke of Hot Sauce, and how they spoke of Professor, how Skip to the Loose spoke about everybody. I just thought that it was so nice for them to realize that like they brought something else to the table, and the fact that they brought something new meant that the tour would be more successful. So they understood what they were doing. But again, how do things always come to a close? Money. It always messes everything up. Never ever pay someone in the same crew more money than someone else. I'm telling you, boy band syndrome, man. When you're in a boy band, there's always one that's the main and the lead singer, or two. They don't necessarily get paid more money unless they're actually writing or doing endorsement deals singly on their own. But I tell you this now, the moment people make more money than someone else, it's always going to go wrong. And that's why one should have stepped in and made sure that everyone was taken care of. And you could see how it started to get dark. They started to fight physically, mentally. You're battling as well, because you're seeing someone else flossing more than you, not realizing that, bro, you might not be flossing at all without M1, but you got other people in your ear. You're young. Well, some of them weren't even that young. Like one of the guys was in their 30s. So you look at it like that, but at the same time, like, at the moment and in the moment, you don't know how you're feeling and what you're going to do. But ultimately, the demise of M1 is always money. It always comes down to money. And they all should have had a lot more. We should have reparations for M1. What do you think? Reparations for M1. Now let's talk about the legendary Duke Tango. Now, as far as announcers are made at basketball games, let's just be honest. Anyone who wants to be an announcer to a basketball game, you need to watch him. I'll tell you this now, if I ever become a sports announcer one day and you see me on the side of a court and I'm talking, I got to come out with one-liners like him. He basically named every player. If you were named by Duke Tango, you made it. That's just how you got to put it down to. If he actually thought you were good enough and he had to name you, your name stuck. He literally named every player, and he just had this charisma and this style. He basically, to me, was like a hip hop artist. He was a freestyler, and what he would do is, but methodically, I don't know how he did it. He would just come up with something that was just, he always had the right name. It was like, how do you come up with the right name for the right people? Like, and it sticks with them forever. Like, he ultimately, like, the Professor's brand is built off of Duke Tango. He's called the Professor from Duke Tango. Like, I just love how he delivered the energy at every game. There is no and one without Duke Tango. You have to look at it like that. The games, you can't replace him. You couldn't replace that energy. If you had a guest announcer on the day, it wouldn't be the same. The balling would be the same, but he was much a part of the team M1 as M1 itself. Like, there's no M1 without Duke Tango. Now, when M1 partnered with Foot Action to actually get all the players, pictures, the brand, it wasn't just about M1 anymore. The brand was the players, but the players were not being financially supported. Now, Hot Sauce became a viral star. Like, literally, you might as well say Hot Sauce was just as famous as any NBA player when it came to basketball at that point. Hot Sauce knew it too. That's what's crazy. Hot Sauce actually knew at this point his value had exceeded what he was getting paid. And should he have been paid more for that? Hell yes, he should have been. Just like everyone else, everyone should have been paid too. But the fact of the matter is, Hot Sauce got to a level where he needed to be paid more, and you couldn't do that without creating an infrastructure that helped the other players. Again, this is why it went down. But Hot Sauce, to me, there was so much brand deals to be done, like we mentioned earlier, the Tabasco sauce, hot wing challenges, all those things, obviously, but they didn't exist at the time. This is such a long time ago now. You would have had to be thinking everything outside the box, and I don't think there was any agents or managers at the time that were thinking and connecting sports with brands the way we connect them now. So it's a timing thing. Just like the NBA lockdown happened and it worked for M1, the timing of M1 with this in terms of brand collaboration didn't work for that neither. So I guess it's just kind of, you got to take the rough with the smooth. Do you know who I really felt for? Like, I don't know why, but Shane the dribbling machine. Like, me and him are here. I've got something with that guy, man. Like, I just felt like he had a really level head. He was so grateful for the position that he was in, and he knew he was grateful. But I think that came with age as well, because he was one of the older guys that were there. And I think he really respected the position he was in, and he knew he couldn't talk to these younger guys to get them to the level where he was, because everything comes down to experience and learning from what goes wrong and what goes right. But I did feel bad for him, because I felt like he should have got more out of that situation. But one thing that he did say in the documentary that really stuck with me, that people would walk past him and they'd say to his kid, "Do you know who your daddy is?" Like, you can't buy that respect. And that's that hood respect, that's that life respect, where when people come up to you and don't say nothing to you, but they say, do you know who your dad is? Like, just because you were on that level, you are a legend in these streets. I love that he said that, and I'm glad he knows that he is a legend. And all of those M1 guys, I don't think they'll ever understand the magnitude to how they changed the game forever. So on the 2001 mixtape tour, that's obviously where it all changed, and that's when Nike made their response, as we spoke about. And yeah, that type of response, you know that you're actually being targeted. Your business is actually being aimed to be crushed, and ultimately, I think Nike kind of settled it after this advertisement. And obviously at the same time as well, the players were having their own problems on and off the court. So it all served as one of the reasons why it is the rise and fall. Because at first I was wondering what the fall was for when I watched the documentary, because I wasn't really sure why they fell and how it could have went wrong. Because the brand is still selling, guys. You can go to any Walmart in America and buy And1 gear. Crazy. Like my boy JP, like, he literally, every time he goes to Florida, he comes back, he's got the best And1 gear. And I'm like, yo, how much did you pay for that? He's like, $14, $10. Whatever company bought And1 decided to make it literally one of the cheapest brands to get. But as you know, what happens when you cheapen a brand and everyone can get it? It's not as valuable. Hence the reason why when the Travis Scott releases come out, when the collab shoes come out, when the Yeezys come out, the reason why there's so much hype behind them is because guess what? There's only a limited amount of people can have them. So you feel extra special because you can get them. And if you don't get them, you want them more. So you wait for the next drop. Whereas with And1, guess what? We can all get them. And I've always said it. If we build it, they will come. And why not? Let's just make everything for everyone. But no, you can't do that because you're losing money. Your profit margins are down because you're making too much and you're not selling everything. That's why these companies make sure they make enough to where they sell enough to where they can entice you enough. So when they release another one, you know you were that percentage that didn't get the shoe. Guess what? You might get the next shoe. You ain't guaranteed it, but you might get it. It's one of the best business moves ever. And you got to remember, how are we supposed to know, living in the UK, if you weren't traveling to the States all the time, that they had an ESPN special where they had the first reality TV series? Like, there was not many reality TV series. You had things like The Real World at the time. I watched that. And to have seen a reality TV series based on their tour and the And1 team, oh my God, I'd have lost my mind if I got to follow that every single week. But luckily, I was one of those lucky people that had family in America that would send me the tapes over so I would see them. And bearing in mind, I'm 21 at the time, I'd actually stopped playing competitive ball by that point. But I didn't mean to say I wasn't into my ball. I was still strongly and hardcore into basketball. But you got to look at it like this. How is a show which is players that are unknown, not professional, beating the rankings of all the shows that are on ESPN? Just think of it like that. Imagine you and your boys getting together, creating a team, and you make an ESPN TV show and it just blows up. And you're bigger than every other show. But on top of that, none of the guys are paid well. It's a recipe for disaster. You can't have fame without money. So you can't get fame and the money's down here. Once the start of fame goes here, the money has got to reach there as well. And that's exactly what didn't happen. Remember, NBA was built on the fact that celebrities went there. Remember, Laker Nation. And then you've got like the biggest celebrities coming to these games because they know they're going to witness and see something crazy. And you're being endorsed by NBA players as well. Come on, like you got to think of it like that. How are you not in the NBA and these NBA players are coming to watch your games? It's the psychology and how it works. It would really mess with you because you're thinking to yourself as a player, like, man, my idols are coming to watch me play. I'm trying to be in their league. That was my plan. I wanted to go. That's where I wanted to go. I didn't think I could get there, but now they like me. It's a hard thing to tackle. I do feel that reaching the top of any mountain in what you do and any field you're in, there's a Mount Rushmore of success. And playing basketball at Madison Square Garden is one thing, because a lot of kids get to do it now that reach the high school championships, but filling the Garden, that's another story. If you're getting to pack Madison Square Garden and play some of the best basketball the Garden's ever seen and most entertaining and fun, then you know what? You made it. And ultimately, to me, that night, they all made it. And they all knew it too. They all knew that they made it too. And then it's just what happens here. What happens when you reach the top of the mountain? You've got to find another mountain to climb. But you know, as much as I keep coming back to this Nike thing, they did the dirt on that one, man. But in any big business, man, like if anyone's threatening your business, like people want to crush you. That right now, if you look at a lot of businesses, a lot of people are doing the same thing. You look at me, I'm in the fitness business, and like there's millions of dudes that do exactly what I do. But what makes me unique is me. And just like Nike, what makes Nike unique is them and their brand. It's just that they have a lot of history behind them. They've got a lot of trust in their product. And when you come out with a brand new product, you're creating a trust, you're creating a consistency, you're creating a bond, you're creating a family, and you're trying to get people to want to buy your brand. And there's nothing worse than when you're reaching the point of where everybody's on your brand and they want to be a part of it, and then the brand that is most known does exactly what you do and they do it better. But they do it so good to a point where it was and is probably one of the most iconic commercials, basketball commercials of all time. When they interviewed Seth Berger about Shane asking for the tuition for his son for school, I ain't gonna lie, man, like I felt really uncomfortable, only because you just know in watching it how the conversation went at the time, and you know for a fact that he did ask for it and he was told no. And it's just so sad that it gets to a point where something so small, the money he was asking for was so small. Like if you look at social media now, for where they were and how famous they were, not even an Instagram post somebody would have paid him that tuition. Like that's what's crazy. And the amount of millions that And1 had, it's the least they could have done. And you could see the pain in his eyes. He knew that he did wrong. And I think that's something that's probably going to sit with him for a very long time. Yeah, the fact that Skip to Malou was the only And1 baller to go to the NBA, I want you to just really understand what we spoke about earlier and the 1 in a million, 2 in a billion factor of going to the NBA. Like the road traveled to go to the NBA requires dedication, hard work, unbelievable talent, skill, hard work again, and one fact that people don't talk about enough: luck. If the stars are not aligned, you ain't making the NBA. Doesn't matter how great you are, because you could snap that Achilles 2 weeks before you were even going in to the lottery picks, and no one's gonna pick you. It's literally, that's why they call it a lottery pick. It's a lottery for the player and the team. That's why when they do these trades and they change, they're like, oh, we're gonna switch you with our first round picks and these first round draft picks in the future. They're called lottery picks because ultimately you don't know if you're gonna win. The player always wins once they get picked, because guess what? They get the money. But the team doesn't always win because they might have picked someone that weren't right for the team and for the infrastructure. That's why you're seeing so many players bouncing back and forth and going to all these different teams. Every single week, there's a trade rumor. Every week, a player wants to leave. Growing up, I rarely saw another player playing for another team, especially a star, not a star. You'd see role players moving around a lot, but you would never see the star of a team moving as much as players move now. But that's because ultimately the players have realized that they're running the league. I think once LeBron made certain moves early in stages in his career, I think a lot of people followed suit and realized they had a lot more bargaining power than they realized. And that's why the league is where it's at now. It's changing. Basketball is changing. The business model of basketball is changing, and the players know it. And I think it's time. It'd be nice to see actually some players just take that ride with a team and just stay and just try and get the team built around them. That's how it always works. You got your star player, you live in a city, let the team upper management make the decisions to try and build a team around them. Look at Kevin Durant now. How many times we spoke about Kevin in the last couple of months? And where's Kevin now? He's still at bloody Brooklyn. He's still there. I'm leaving. He's not leaving. He's staying there because you know what? I ain't letting my biggest asset go. I'm not letting one of the best players of all time. He is literally one of the best players of all time. He's going to be. Why am I going to let you go and get first round picks in 2, 3 years, 4 years from now when I've got someone who's got another 3 years on their contract? You crazy? Yeah, I've been jumping back and forth with this review, but do you know what? There's just too many things to cover. Like, I could be here all day. I'm going to have to make sure I edit this down. Like, honestly, I could just keep talking about this all the time. That's why I'm going to do a couple of lives as well with some people that have live discussions, because there's so many things to cover in regards to how this happened and what happened with the players and where they went. But that's why I wanted to mention the professor again. Like, honestly, if you don't follow the professor, definitely go follow him on live, because his content is not only amazing, his positivity, his energy, and just how he comes across is just so humble. Like, he really just seems like the kind of person that's like, yo, I'm just glad to be here. I'm glad people are messing with me. But he's putting in so much work to be as good as what he is. It's second nature to him. Him going to a basketball court and having to break people down is just normal. It doesn't matter how good you are as well, because you know what? Defense is completely different to offense. People forget that. You're going to have a lot of people being able to score on him, but you're not going to have a lot of people that are going to be able to guard him. That is the difference. And that is why in these clips you can see people are just not expecting someone to do this with a ball or manipulate their legs, because that's what you got. That's what he does, which I find unbelievable, which they really get down to a T. They figured out a way to make sure that you get stuck in the mud. And once they see that your foot is in a particular position, they know that physically you can't step in a direction, and if you try, you fall over. That is called perfection. Some people break people down because it's pure accident. The person just happened to move there and then they just fell. But those guys, it's all on purpose. They know how to get you in a position where physically your body just can't move. And if you try and move in that direction, you're just going to fall. And Professor, man, keep making that content. I know it's not going to be for a crazy length of the time, because at the end of the day, guys, father time is real. We're all going to get older. We're not going to be able to do all the things we did yesterday in our lives. But thank you so much for creating this great content. Thank you, and one, for giving us some of the best basketball years in the late 90s to the early 2000s. And this documentary I thought was a really great documentary overall. I think it's brilliant to see all the guys together talking about a time in their lives that ultimately changed their lives for the good and inspired others. It would be great if there was a way that these players can be repaid back in some way, or have stock options. I don't know, like, who knows, but it would be great if there was a way they could be paid for the time and the money that they did. But again, other people in other industries have done deals where they should have been paid a lot more and wasn't. That's just life. But you know what? Life's about legacy and what you leave behind. And I believe from watching that documentary, these guys left something very special behind. And thank you very much, guys, for another great episode of Marvin Basketball, and we shall see you soon. Peace.